p.m. in the Weyauwega Fremont Middle School IMC.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call on status report, please.
Wheeler.
Here.
Debbie Bartle. Here. Kurt Metzger.
Here.
Debbie Armbruster.
Here.
Dan Cole.
Here.
Jim Spitz.
Here.
Sandy Smith. Yes.
Board meeting was properly notified for this number. 5 communication visitors, 5A visitors.
Okay, my question is about your closed session policy. When 19.851C is read, I guess my first question is, has the school's attorney approved this closed session posting? Okay, because when you read the statute, it says that closed session, there's 13 exemptions to go into closed session. And this one that's stated is only for a specific individual, not for a position. So I'm questioning whether you could be violating the open meetings because you are broadly discussing a position and not one individual. I don't know what Mr. Gill, what information he gets to approve it, but there's an open meetings compliance guide that the Department of Justice puts out, and it clearly states that I don't think you can go into closed session to discuss a position. An employee, like the statute says, but not just a general position. So I guess I'm just bringing that to your attention. Thanks.
Anything else?
The agenda was forwarded to Attorney Gill as written for approval, and response back was okay.
Maybe individual names discussed that.
Well, the position itself involves individuals that, I guess, staff, individuals that work in those positions and whatnot. No individual will be named as one way or another moving forward. You're looking at current employees that are within the position and what their future lies.
Administration.
Just a couple items on my monthly report. First and foremost, I'd like to welcome and prepare our school community for the beginning of the 2014-15 school year. There are a tremendous amount of people throughout the summer since the end of the school year that have been busy preparing our building and facilities, not only facilities but preparing curriculum and readying ourselves for the start of this year's school year. Tonight we'll have an opportunity to take a facilities walkthrough and point out some of the highlights in which Mr. Westrader and his staff have accomplished throughout the summer months, and as well point out different areas in which we have commented on before through our previous meetings addressing some long-range planning and what that means as far as our facility and structures as we move down that journey collectively together. But a warm welcome back to our school community. A sincere thank you to all members involved in our school community that is prepared for the start of the beginning of this year's school year.
My report stands as printed.
My report stands as printed.
Just wanted to mention to the board a reminder, tomorrow starts our staff in-service. The new staff will be arriving tomorrow to go through the in-service training with the mentor program, and all the district staff will be here Wednesday. So I'm just reminding the board that they're all invited to participate in any or all parts of in-service. On Thursday, it'll be the professional teaching staff here in the district, and then Friday is the professional floating work day for the staff to set up their classrooms. So any portion of that you would like to see or participate in, you're very welcome.
take some time to walk through our facilities. And we're going to start right out the back of the middle school here and work our way through the building and ultimately end up in the high school and then back to the middle school again. For those that would like to participate in the walkthrough, you're more than welcome to. Throughout the walkthrough, myself and the administrative team may highlight, as well as Mr. Schrader may highlight different areas of work that's been completed and focus areas that we're going to be looking at as we move forward. If we're ready, we're ready to go.
If anyone shows up this meeting, how will they know where we are?
Don, would you stay back? Take the- All right, a couple items here. Last spring, the board authorized the purchase of a new bus, and in our mind, we kind of picturize or rationalize as to what that looks like. We see a lot of buses both in our district and out, and I wanted to give you a comparison of a new 2014 and bus 22 that is 1996. A 1996, and this bus is currently in service. It's a route bus and supports our district needs twice a day, to and from pickup, drop off with our students. So 1996, 2014, I guess I'm just showing that we try to maintain our equipment and keep it rolling as long as we can and keep it within in working order. If you want to step on and see the difference between 1996 and 2014, feel free to do so.
You can even smell the new smell.
The new, that's right. But that was our investment in the age of time and what they've done.
It hasn't been moved in about a month, so it was like. How many passengers?
You look like you coordinated today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many now?
Yeah, they'd have to
These
learn.
are 72. I'm ordering everything 72. These are 65.
Well, it is a restriction.
The reason why is I'm measuring the shorter distance actually with more capacity.
That's what you can't drive a stick.
72
Take
capacity.
it,
65.
take it up, if you take it in.
But they both have the same wheelbase. They both have all the same. It's just that this one is shorter in order to fit more of the seats. And they figure capacity is 3 to a
We all
seat,
got hydraulics, so that.
and there's
If we had
15
air,
seats.
If we're ready, we can come on in here. You got it? Thank you. Right here. Sorry. Yeah. You appreciate the inside climate just a little bit.
Yeah.
In the middle school. As we move through the various buildings, one thing, and I'll point out in this hallway, the work that goes into bringing the floors back to life and putting on the shine and the polish, that doesn't happen by chance, okay? It's a lot of elbow grease to do that. The one thing that I will mention on here, that these floors, in Wes, you can correct me if I don't use the right language, that they weren't taken down to the bare tile.
Correct.
They're just
Those floors in the middle school here were stripped at all.
okay, so they were roughed and then sealed again?
Right. Yep. There was power scrubbed and then resealed. Once we get down to the elementary school, the main, the long hallway down there, you'll see that floor has been stripped right down to bare tile and then refinished.
And the goal there is to do that every other year? Is that what,
Kind of as needed, depending on amount of traffic and stuff. As we start to see discoloration, yellowing in the wax, that's a telltale sign that it's time to strip the floor.
time they need to bring it up. So, and that takes a great deal of time and obviously patience and whatnot to make that done as we move through. Throughout the middle school and high school, you'll notice different waste receptacles that the board approved. I believe it was in July to uniform and create awareness of our recycling and waste in the proper place throughout the building so students utilize the appropriate receptacles. Yes, thank you. Our new elementary computer lab last spring we talked about and pushed through the concept of adding additional computer lab to support the elementary. This is the final outcome of that. It's near completion. There's some fine tuning that will be done this week before students arrive next week with cleaning up of some of the cables and whatnot, but you can see the thought process through the diagrams and how we establish that with our teacher workstation and our student workstations, all facing one way, and so that one instructor theoretically could look behind and see where students are at. And then with the use of the smart board behind to stop instruction if they wanted to instruct from an alternate setting, students couldn't continue to look at their screen. They would have to turn around and look at the smart board and thus engage themselves, and the instructor would know that the individual is looking at the smart board for the instruction that's going on. If you notice the chairs throughout, okay, in our original bid we had purchased or we had anticipated purchasing chairs to accommodate the room, but Wes and his staff and the follow through of our current facilities were able to outfit this room with existing chairs, so we did not have to complete that expenditure and have cost savings to the district within that, and I believe that was between $700 and $800 in the chair expense with that. We have one more blue one toward the end, so we don't have one yellow one. But I think it turned out well, and we're anxious to put the room to work as needed to support learning with our students.
The interior design, I want to finish the sterile walls.
Yeah. Well, that the look and feel will come.
No,
Correct.
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. The look and feel will come.
That wall where Dan and Cole is, there's going to be another projector like that that'll project on that wall. So the teacher, if they're working on the smart board, the students can, if you're sitting there, you can look right up there. And if I'm the teacher, if I'm manipulating the smart board, that student will see on that wall exactly what's going on the smart board. So you don't have to cost the smart board, nor would you need it, but they don't have. They can just keep looking that way, and they'll see what the teacher's doing up there.
So we're looking forward to putting this room to work as needed.
Well, actually, so the teachers can actually, if I'm teaching from here, I can see 30 words today.
Okay. And the 31.
But the thing is, like, let's say Jeannie's over in that corner, I can see like Jeannie's on this web page and on the day.
Sterile walls are not.
difference in the processing of the floor.
Everybody, they just strip these all, or these down pretty well.
Exactly. This, to point out the differences, Wes has explained, this floor got taken right down to the tile, all the layers are brought up, and you can see that the imperfections are much cleaner than in the middle school at the current time. Still makes it pop and, creates a very sharp-looking floor with the students that travel, and the building itself is prepared and ready. The accommodations for students in the hallway hasn't changed. Adequate space for students with their gear, lockers, their clothing, backpacks, and whatnot that they may bring are located on the sides of each of the hallway, typically outside the classrooms, but some of the students find their way down here to utilize racks that may have a classroom up in the north wing of the building. So we'll walk down and we'll just pop into one classroom and see how that is ready for the beginning of the year. Wants to be in? Just to share an example of a typical classroom within Weyauwega Elementary within this, I call it the east-west corridor of the building. This is part of the original structure from '58, I believe, that was built at that time. From this point on down to the end of the building, each classroom resembles each other except for the fact that the remaining classrooms have full-length windows from one end to the other, and this one has a window bank of approximately half of the classroom. During our facility study, they talked about the efficiencies within the building and HVAC and the different structures that are in place. The HVAC unit that's working right now, blowing the cold air, is original, as well as the single pane windows that reflect out onto the outside. As far as cost efficiencies and effectiveness, maybe not the best, aesthetically pleasing, creating a positive environment for students. Ideal within that. And you'll notice within this classroom, we talked about multiple learning stations for students to learn. We have our traditional desk setting where the instructor would instruct from the front of the classroom and instruct. Notice there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different potential learning stations within this classroom where students can move to different locations within the room to carry on individual or small group tasks within. And that's not just the entire class moving together collectively as one group. It's a breakdown of moving students, finding their comfort level where they learn best to capture the content matter in which the teacher is instructing at that time. So that theme presents itself through classrooms as you move through and throughout the year. If you get in, pay note to that. It's not just lawn chairs in a corner or bean bags in a corner or a table of 4 chairs around. There's an intent for that. It's designed to set up a learning environment for specific students and or small groups during the instructional day.
Do you know how many kids are in this room?
In this class? I'm not sure if Doug may know. This is
I'm going to say
third grade
there
class.
can't be more than 18, but I would say there's 16 probably.
That's what I count. That's what I want.
Okay.
Isn't the only air in here the window unit?
Correct.
So that's not really.
But,
Well, it sounded like the heating, cooling was original.
That part of it
The
is.
cooling is window, and that changes as needed.
Sure has been brought up within that, yeah, exactly. Any other questions on the classroom? Okay. We'll have to keep on moving. I'll talk about the entrance here. We'll make our way into the entrance, and we'll have a few comments on our entrance and how that works for us. Yeah, that's for sure. Just wanted to point out the entrance of the elementary school. In our conversation through the long-range facility study, we talked about potential work addressing our entrances and creating safe and secure environments as students enter in and out. This is an original construction design to this building, back in 1960 to 1962 when the construction was built. The gymnasium inside hosts all of our physical education classes. Students go up to the elementary or to the middle school to have lunch during the day. This is one area that potentially could be looked at for increasing the rigidness or the security of entering the building. And if I had to rank our secure entrances to get into the school, this one would probably be our second best one. Because you have two sets of doors. You have one set of doors there, you have a set of doors going this way, and then you have a third set of doors before you enter into the student hallway. If you've been around at the end of the day, this area gets very congested with parents as they're picking up their children at the end of the day. And then the traffic out in front of the building, which Doug is going to talk about some changes that have been implemented to hopefully alleviate some of that stress. It's a very congested area as we prepare for school, and we're trying to be as efficient as we can be, and most definitely try to be as safe as we can be with our students when they're entering and exiting the elementary school. Any questions on the entrance of the elementary school? Again, you wouldn't know it's how many years old. It looks brand new. That's a credit to our staff and the work that we put in. If you haven't peeked into the gym, please do so, and we're going to go outside next.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
I was here when
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, in front of our elementary, for those of you that haven't been part of our district prior to the middle school and being built, and I was one of them, there used to be green space between the elementary and the high school. And at that time, the horseshoe drive-in and drive-out was designed to support solely the elementary school. When the middle school came in, that created a different environment for traffic pattern and ultimately increased the amount of traffic flow as far as students, parents, pick up, drop off, and the congestion that's happened. I know we've had conversations about addressing the entrance up to the left here where people come in, potential widen it or directing the traffic through, and that is most definitely continue under the evaluation to see if it can be adjusted through our site plan and our long-range study to create that efficiency within. But over the summer, Mr. Strader, Mr. Westrader, and Mr. Nowak in the Weyauwega Police Department met several times along with Jeremy and our safety committee to talk about some things that we could do right now with what we have to increase the safety of our students and our pedestrians. Doug, why don't you share with us what that means?
Last year, you can see there's white along the curb here and along the curb there, and then a yellow over there. It was flip-flop. What we're going to do, and hopefully this will help, is we'd like to just have all curbside loading for the kids, so they're not walking across any lanes of traffic, even though the teachers come out here and they do a really nice job of making sure cars aren't going, past kids as they're walking by. But so from the corner to there during the end of the day, or even in the beginning of the day, cars will be able to stop and park there and be attended. So they wouldn't stop there and then come into the school. So if they're going to attend their vehicle there, and when their children come out, they'll be able to park there and all the way along there. And we have sidewalk that goes all the way up. So there'll be a lot of room for parking. This area that you see crisscross, that'll be coned off as well, so nobody will be parking at all at the end of the day. And I know some of you are here at the end of the day, so you know how congested this can be. But this will be wide open. The staff will act as crossing guards in here, but this lane will be open, so if you picked up a child over there, you'll actually be able to come, slowly by and open up a spot for somebody else. If your kindergartner, first grader, second grader comes out and then that car leaves, if somebody's waiting over there, they'll be able to take that parking spot. So hopefully that we've eliminated students walking across here to come and get in a car while cars are coming along this way. So we should have eliminated that. I think in general, after I'll be talking about it on back to school night with the families, and a little bit of instruction, as long as the cars are patient and leave that lane open, we shouldn't have too much trouble as far as cars being able to get by here without creating a log jam. The two herringbone parking spots on the side, I'm going to talk with staff to make sure that those are left open for families, so when they do come, if they want to talk to the teacher, they can park their vehicle there, come on in, and then they'll get their child and leave in that regard. But hopefully this will help alleviate some of the pressure of what sometimes can be a very congested area here.
So the discussion to go into what we see today is a combination, again, is you, the Weyauwega Police Department, Jeremy, Wes, and within that team to say, for what we have, this is what we feel is the best fit to make traffic flow and the safest route for our students.
Yep.
Okay. As we start, a question.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Can you still drive up here and let your kids hop in the car, or you can't?
No, because there'll be cones along here. No, you from the white to there. No, they're like at night when people are leaving at 3 o'clock, this will still be wide open.
So no
Open
cars
up the
will drive here?
Exactly. That way, if I'm driving a car and I'm over here, I'd rather than be able to see, a student coming by. If there's a car here, there's still a possibility of a student, running out that they don't see.
So do you have to park to let your kids get in your car then?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you have to park your car to let your kids get in then? Meaning if I drive up, I'm used to driving up, stopping, they quick hop in and I pull away. But do I have to find a place to park now?
White, gotta go by the white.
Go by the white, yeah.
But you don't think that's going to be full, or?
It might be, but as people leave, there'll be spots opening up. Well,
you
if
could
you're
still
a third,
drive by, it would just be on the outside of those lines. Or
Yeah,
And then
you'll
they
be able
can
to get
hop
by.
in out there.
Yeah.
Oh, no. This whole area that's kind of crisscrossed, that's basically a no loading.
Load and unload at the white.
No loading zone here.
Okay, I think you've addressed some safety issues with cars and little people, but I don't think you've addressed the bottleneck at Ann Street. And that can be addressed, to me, very quickly by giving 2 entrances. Grade school currently has an entrance, and high school currently has an entrance and exit. Middle school has not got an entrance. They share it with the elementary. You double wide that entry over there, and now when the Ann Street, right, when the Ann Street is plugged, you can still get in and park at the middle school and walk and get your child.
Okay.
I've fought for 4 years to double wide that entry. The middle school has its own, and it doesn't have its own.
Okay. We do have a couple other things that we're going to add to this. If you're a 3rd, 4th, and 5th, the teachers, they're going to, when I say survey, they'll just basically talk with their kids in their class. If you're a student in either 3rd, 4th, or 5th grade and are not a village or city walker or have responsibilities with a kindergarten, 1st, or 2nd grade sibling or whatever, they'll come out the door over there, so those cars won't have any need.
Is that curb white?
No.
The inside curve?
My point is, if this is white load and unload, that curb across in front of the middle school could be white.
I'm sure it could be.
Yeah, we talked about that in to do that later
that's
on.
the color code. Park and load and unload on white.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've looked into that.
I want
we have some other ideas out there, but painting the whole parking lot.
I'm thinking my own entrance. This is full.
Mm-hmm.
I can pull in and park in middle school and walk and get the little.
Just right here, so we're not getting
Then it doesn't matter if it's white or not, because you're going to park your car.
But I can't leave it.
Well, you can't.
But if I teach my children to come to the middle school white
Right.
and
Then
stay
you
at my
can stay in
vehicle,
your
it helps take one more vehicle out of here.
Yeah, that's the idea.
So
Yeah,
that,
Ava, you've
I
got
think
a
white
third
there
grade
and
over there,
a double entry should be considered.
I think one of the biggest complaints is the parents that drive in and they just park and they will not move until their child walks out of the door.
And they could be
So then you
laughing
got 20 cars backed up. You got middle schoolers weaving through your cars because it certainly has gotten very
I like the safety
congested.
issues you've
Yeah.
attended to here.
I think one of the things, I'm hopeful what will help is people get, because I really don't see too many cars using that area over there, that people will see the benefit of parking, along there and letting their child come out and actually go kind of around the radius here and use that.
I appreciate
I think I'm hoping anyway, that they'll see the advantage of, you know what, it's more advantageous for me to park over there where the exit is, as opposed to parking
With another
here
exit.
where I'm behind everybody. I'm very hopeful that that's what they'll do. And we'll, if we see a bunch of openings up there, I wouldn't have any qualm with, politely mentioning to people, you're free to park up there. Maybe they won't think of it right away. But that's my hope, is that they'll say, oh, that's a better thing to go over there as opposed to here, because, I can get out. I don't need to wait for city walkers to go through them.
Currently, if they don't want to be part of the problem, they can't get in.
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
Currently, if they don't want to be part of this problem,
Yeah.
they can't get in the middle school parking lot. They can't get into the middle school parking lot.
I'm not sure I'm following you, but.
Because there was.
They're stuck on Ann Street.
I see what you mean. They literally
they can't
can't
drive
get
in.
into it. Yeah. I
Right.
see
So
what you're saying.
that to me is gonna.
I mean, literally, they can't get
Right.
into
So
it. All right.
they're part of the traffic
Yeah.
jam on Ann Street.
Yeah.
And they don't want to participate in this traffic jam.
Yeah.
Give them a relief.
Yeah.
Into middle school and out a different exit.
Yeah. And they will, if they're a third, fourth, fifth, they should be able to go along that curve over there. And
All right, we will keep moving in
I appreciate the group that worked on it. Need clear info.
One thing as we walk our way down in front of the middle school that I want you to point out, and you'll see continually, is the effort of the grounds itself, of the condition of the grounds that the building and grounds team has done this year. Some of the light landscaping and reconfiguration, identifying or defining the edges of bulk areas.
Middle school doesn't have an entrance. Well, no, middle school doesn't have an entrance. No. It's an exit.
Oh, I thought there was an entrance there.
No.
Over there.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Middle school doesn't have an entrance.
Okay, just a couple comments about the front of our of our middle school. Probably most notable is the area in which Mr. Lurkey's standing by. The only thing that's really the same is the split rail fence. Obviously, it's a new split rail fence that has been installed by the maintenance staff, but the landscaping, we removed, was it 2 or 3, a crabapple and a mulberry tree that came out, a ton of ground cover, some small arborvitae plants, and a couple plants I'm not sure we knew what they really were. But before pulling that out, one thing I did is I consulted with Frank Savoy, a longtime district employee and administrator with the district, who was with the district when they built the middle school. Along the street out there, the trees that are planted by the sidewalk, all of those trees were donated at that time in the name or memory of someone when that was put in. And before we pulled the trees out of here, I consulted with Frank to say, hey, do these trees have any other significance other than being part of the landscape scene within our district? And he said, nope, they're all out on the street. So the material that was pulled out in good faith. New material was put in. I believe Overstat Landscaping assisted some of the design, and Wes and his team did the brunt of the grunt work to install and put down the material and how it reflects right now. As well, I want to point out last spring we had a memorial service for Kathy Wolt and her unfortunate passing, in what our Sunshine Club and school community did with the benches and the crabapple tree that was put in place in front of the middle school. Last year, a couple weeks prior to today, there was about a 50-foot pine tree that was there that blew down in the middle of August last year in that storm that rolled through. So we replaced the tree with the tree and created a sitting area in memory of Kathy. What we're going to do is we're going to walk into the middle school here. We're just going to talk about our entrance a little bit, and then we'll head up into the high school.
Looks good, guys.
Yeah.
You need bark that doesn't float.
One thing I didn't notice out, but I'm sure everybody's familiar with, is when students and visitors access the school during school hours, they have to buzz in and hit the call button, and there's a camera right over there, okay, that shows the office as to who is requesting to come into the building. And then the voice commands come over the microphone, and the secretary releases the door, and the door is opened, and the person comes in. So that's a safety security feature that was installed 5 or 6 years ago, I believe. It's been a while, but it's a nice added feature to ensure a safe, secure entrance. Excuse me? Okay, the look and feel from 1962 to 1991, where we enter in. If I had to describe the most secure entrance to the district as far as building entry, this perhaps could be it. Double doors with notification outside as to who would be entering in. The one downfall is that if somebody did get into that door, made their way to here, it's a straight shot into the student population, where the office is behind the wall. It would be hard to stop somebody on an attempt to run down the hall unsupervised. Right now, as it is, it says that visitors are to report to the middle school office. So when they come in, they're to report to the middle school office, which is adjacent from the entrance of the foyer. Oh yeah, she can see who it is from the camera. She can get a visual, and if she can't identify, she'll say, "Hey, can you look at the camera?" So that, and what is your intent and purpose? Middle school office, the hub of the middle school activity, and we'll make our way down. Thank you.
This is mine.
Okay, we just came from 1991 to 1969. The first thing you'll notice is that the hallways in the middle school, how much wider they are for the traffic flow. And that was designed for a student population of less than the high school at the time. But the standards of the industry widened out that traffic flow to accommodate students as far as flow to and from. Within the high school here, you'll notice how it narrows back down within with the lockers on both sides of the building. For those of you that have been in the district during school time, during the transition of classes between, it is quite congested. You know, if you take a student standing by a locker, okay, arm's length apart, and you have another one on the other side, arm's length apart, you have a narrow corridor for the traffic to move to and from. We do just fine with that. We've been able to accommodate it for, since the inception of the building. But as far as the traffic flow, I wouldn't be telling you the truth if there wasn't, some accidental bumps, down the hall where people, bump into each other just because the space does refine down into a tighter position. The lockers are original with the building. They've been maintained. They've been painted several times through the year, but overall they're in good standing condition and meet the needs of our students to accommodate their books, supplies, clothing, for inclement weather to and from school throughout the year. We're just going to step into the biology room. This is one of the talking points that we've had discussions on over the past couple months. Okay, this is our biology room, which the majority of our sophomores will have instruction from throughout their high school career. Those that are WF alumni, my guess is this room looks about the same as it did when you were in here at that respected year. All of the instruction biology-wise, the vast majority takes place within here. The lab tables are designed to be multi-purpose classroom tables and lab instructional tables for the different projects, dissections, and work that an individual may do. Is also the counter in the back with the water is a lab station area in which the instructor can present conceptual ideas and project work that is carried on throughout. Smartboard in front as far as technology-wise in most of all of our classrooms throughout to accommodate the knowledge being put up on the board from our instructor, which is great. Auxiliary rooms for supplies as needed, storage throughout. This is a nice room, but it does get tight when you bring, what did we say, our enrollment for this class is around that 26 to 28. Bodies in here in motion, working on different activities and looking to spread out. It could be a little tight, so some additional space or reconfiguration may be appropriate as we move forward. If you notice on the floor here, maybe you don't notice, all right, but there's a style stretch here where there's a slight color discoloration. Wes this summer was able to repair a crack in the floor and match the tiles as best he could with the lot numbers to the existing tile. So that repair has been made. The thought was to do the entire classroom right away, but with where we are in our facility study, we went with the fix like this in case we are to move forward with something more substantial to address any of our science areas within. Any questions on the biology room? This is all of our high schools at one time or another may come through one time or twice, depending on their course load in which they engage into. Okay.
Sometimes she can prompt like a sentence or a word, or that's how I realized how much I like to keep coming back.
Okay, we'll spend just a couple of seconds within this environment. This is our chemistry room where not all students, but the vast majority of students who take chemistry course instruction would have predominantly the most of their class time in this room. You'll notice the original work around the outside where you have the identified lab stations, and the intent there is the instruction takes place in the center through the classroom teacher-led lecture, and then if appropriate you move outside to the labs to carry on the different experiments and processes of what is taking place on that day. The one thing that I will mention, although it looks like these rooms do, or the lab stations accommodate the needs of the students, I'm a fairly big guy, okay? And if Mr. Duxbury were a student and he was right here, it'd slide on in here. All right, and we're working back to back like this. It is an environment where if I step back or lunge forward by chance, there is a place where a person could bump into another student, and if they are handling a hazardous chemical, which our students do at different times depending on the experiment at hand, it does pose a risk. The safety in chem lab and all classrooms is priority. The goggles and the safety precautions that go into each lab are thoroughly explained prior to the carrying out of the expectations within, but it's tight. It's close. And a little more space in this environment may be appropriate within here, if appropriate as we move forward.
Mr. Bleck, can we point out one other thing?
Certainly.
All the boxes and materials and books that you're seeing on the counters here is the board-approved science purchase for this past year. So those materials have arrived, and the science department is working on getting those together for the students for next week.
Again, storage along the side here in the, what I call it the cage. You know, if they're working with noxious gases within the design, the intent is to put it in there and then it evacuates up through the ceiling so the students aren't subject to the noxious gases within. Purpose of that, more storage to the side within. Any questions on our current chem room? Okay, go ahead. Okay, some the changes within this environment that were subtle, but you may recognize or know. The first I want to point out is over by Mr. Nowak behind there. Okay, if you remember back, there used to be a telephone years ago that used to come out from that wall, and some garbage cans and an area, and also the memorial photos and plaques that were along this wall were unstationed over in that area. And what we did is we relocated our alumni awareness case, of memorabilia, and moved it out so that more students and staff can appreciate what's in there. So our alumni case and different recognitions of past and former teachers within are now displayed in that area. And again, you can see the new receptacles within the side. The memorial information or mementos were moved over to this wall. We had an outdated WF circular plywood configuration, I'll call it, that was there that led a good life, but we've moved it out and brought in a little up-to-date within that. If you haven't noticed, prior last year, our TV scrolling messages within our communication, not only in the high school and the middle school, so when a visitor comes in, they can check out the scrolling TV board for important announcements and directions if there's an event going on. Also within the high school, as we move throughout, all the walls,
except for the north and south hallway.
Except for the north and south hallway were painted this summer. Okay, so the red and the off-color white that you're looking at is freshly painted to support a clean environment within. Now, the difference in this floor that I want to point out, and Wes and his team worked very hard to bring this back, but this is a terrazzo floor. Those familiar with flooring, and off to our hallway, it's PVC tile flooring. Now, there's a difference. If our entire school had this type of flooring, that would be splendid. This doesn't wear. Okay, you just need to rebuff and put a new finish on. For this to crack and break takes a lot. At one time, the north and south hallway were carpeted. And so that through time, as they updated, they removed the carpet and put down the PVC tile within the hallways. But this terrazzo floor was stripped down to the bare material, something that hadn't been done
Long time.
Long time. And so the luster that you're seeing is as close as it can be to original new. And that's a lot of hard work that went into that. Our entrance, as far as secure entrances, it has the camera outside, the button to comment in. Our secretaries in the the high school office have the ability to see who comes in and out. As far as ranking secure entrances to the building, this would probably be our least secure entrance on the Weyauwega campus. If a student or somebody wanted to come into the building, they got their way in. The office isn't directly in sight. They could take it right into the school area. There is no second series of doors as there are in the middle school and the high school. One thought, and I don't understand why, it looks like an original design. There may have been something to do with the vestibule, the way it's designed out in front, but for whatever reason, that second row of doors was never part of the configuration. And this is what we've known as far as I've been here, as long as I've been here, and people that have been here longer than myself, I don't think it's changed its look structurally over the years. Any comments on the front entrance? Okay. Our auditorium, which serves both not only the high school and different functions, but the middle school and the elementary as well for different programming. This is what it represents. Our drama production, our plays, small scale band productions take place within this environment. Those of you who are familiar with this room, back during its inception, it used to have an auditorium look and feel where it had the theater seating, the walkways down in front. I believe it was used for study hall purposes at that time to accommodate student needs. Several years ago, there was a decision made to update this facility to create more of a multi-purpose feel within that. The auditorium at that point in time didn't see a lot of use, and so they were looking at ways to create space for active learning within. When they put this in the tiered effect, they wired the entire area to be network accessible, where we had computers in here. We could actually set up an auxiliary computer lab if we wanted to in here, the way it's configured and wired. Right now, we don't hold study hall in this environment. We once did. It's primarily used for our drama performances, class meetings, gathering places for staff and the community at different times throughout the year. You notice how hot it is. It's hot. There's no air coming in and out of this. This is how it sits. Wes can turn the blowers on, but I just keep recycling that hot air back into this room. During the summertime, during productions, it's almost unbearable, within this environment within here. When we step out into the hall, you'll notice that it's cooler already, because there is some limited air that is moving throughout the building. Any questions on this environment? The one downfall of this area is the way it's currently equipped, or lack of equipment. I just want to point out the sound booth, which was put in several years ago to create kind of a switchboard to operate, handheld, not handheld, but tree lighting for our plays and productions. One thing I'd like to see over time here is fixed lighting. There is some minimal lighting on the stage to accompany the student productions, but it's very, what I'll call remedial as to what it should be within. And then again, the storage behind the tan-colored curtain, that's full of props and sets and material utilized throughout the years and past years, which continually gets recycled. There's just not enough room to store that in appropriate places, but we make do with what we have. Our spring banquets take place in here as well. Question? Out here within our school environment, when we have different events, whether it be an athletic competition or a drama production, the public facilities in which people are entitled to utilize and the space proximity of where the events are taking place. Predominantly, the men's and women's facilities right here are the main go-to places within our district during events. And I guess I would invite you to walk into either of the men's and or women gender respected and within and look at the decor within. It's original. The only thing that may have been replaced is a faucet here and there, maybe a partition board or perhaps a tile, and maybe a few other items. But the space and the look and feel needs some help. But we keep it as clean as we can, and we keep it updated as we can to meet our needs of our community within. So if you want to check out the facilities, if you're not familiar with them, please do.
I'm
Otherwise,
familiar.
everybody's seen them.
I don't have to.
You'll notice how my sound is kind of deafening, or maybe it's enhanced a little bit within this room. This is our distant learning lab, or our Cascade classroom. Throughout the year you hear Jeremy and myself and Candy talk about Cascade instruction. It's distant learning instruction where the instructor may be coming from an alternative site. It could be Shiocton, it could be Little Chute, so on and so forth, all of those schools within our consortium. How this works is that if we are not instructing or hosting school, the students would come in, they would find their seat, and they would sit in front of their microphone accordingly, and the class would come up, the instructor would be on the TV, and you would see 3 other classes of instruction going on the alternative TVs to the side as to where else the other students and what they're doing. Okay? This has worked since, this was in place, I believe, the year before I started. So it's like 97 or so, it was its inception, I believe. Okay? If you notice when kids walk in here, some say, wow, look at those TVs. I've never seen one like that. Okay? The TVs that you're seeing are original models, making models to when this was put together. And next year, we are up for an update to make this an HD TV lab. Not only just the television, but I'll call the brains of the program within this black closet on the side here. That's the network equipment that sends the signal back and forth to all the outdating sites. Now that upgrade doesn't come at no cost to the district. We're looking at a cost between $25,000 to $35,000 to bring this room up to what it should be to be compatible with the latest technology usage, and the ability to access the resources that are out there that didn't exist back in '97. One thought is as well is to include computers within, because we're talking about blended classes where a teacher may ask the students to go on the computer and work on a project or something within. I guess my point is that this is going to look different next year if we choose to stay part of the consortium with the needed update. We're being, not to say forced to update, but we are, because they are not supporting any more of the existing and old equipment. We could have chose to do it this year, but I did not want to be the guinea pig with the update. I chose next year as the time where we would dive into it if appropriate, and we get the support to carry that through. Currently, we have Sandy Dykes, who teaches from this. You'll see some of the animal-related posters and whatnot within the outside for the vet science and animal care, two very popular classes. This tile floor was put in not by chance but by design, because we've had cows, sheep, horses, and all other types of livestock in the back during the class to help support her class instruction throughout. It's a great room. Jeremy, were there any other comments from your eyes on the Cascade instruction?
We also have Renee Hunkins in here.
Renee as well. How many hours of the day is this classroom used, do you believe?
Last semester it was used, I think, all but 1 hour.
All but 1 hour. And the class size it can vary from one student. We'll run it for one student with this environment if it allows, or up to 16. I think that's what this room fits, or around that number. Obviously, we want to support classes that have the largest course load and requests, so we can utilize
Does
it
Renee
efficiently as we
teach a
can.
class then too?
What's that?
Does she teach? Oh.
Renee?
Yeah, I know.
And it's used in the evenings.
And the evening, that's right. The Fox Valley Tech comes in, and we have people from our community that come in and take classes via Fox Valley Tech. A lot of the basic and general classes in their programming, they'll use this as a satellite campus to the Appleton campus. Comments on the gym, the high school gymnasium, which supports the majority of our physical education classes when we're inside during the late fall, winter, and into the early spring. It also supports all of our indoor competitions. Not only it makes its way right back and down to elementary instruction. There's some of our community groups that utilize the gym for various reasons as well. The floor, you'll see, has a nice polish and shine to it. Annually they come in and they burnish or they burn it down and take that outer limit or outer edge off of it, as Wes was describing in the hallways, and then they put new coats and reseal it on with is it an oil base? Yep. I think it's an oil base coat that takes 2 weeks to cure to get that hard finish, so that it will be as resistant as possible. Dwayne, you can see down, he's finishing the final touches on the painting. If you remember, we'll call it the off-white on the bottom, and the cream color used to be like a grayish blue, okay, and the red stripe was not there. Just from the continual use of this environment, you're naturally going to get a lot of stuffs and marks and on the wall from the different activities that are going on in the instruction and the competitions that are taking place. We're trying to keep it as clean as we can, make it presentable to our community, and create an inviting place not only for our athletic competitions, but for our band and our chorus, which traditionally have their concerts in this environment well within the high school. You notice you got a fan blowing over there, and you can hear the fan running, all right? I want to point out the two units that move the air through this structure. You'll notice they're located inside, underneath. They're not on top of the roof. And at different times when you're trying to create an intimate environment, like in a band concert or a chorus concert, and still keep air moving and circulating through, we almost need to keep those running. And when they're on, they're very loud. And it can be a little distracting, not only just for taking in the work of the students or the compositions being presented, but also hearing, okay, and listening. The acoustics in here is still a gym. It's not a Cascade room, which creates that appropriate sound barriers within. We put up shelves within chorus, but still it's not an auditorium, and the sound can make it different. Our students meet in here for assemblies, homecoming, class meetings, so on and so forth, where Mr. Schrader, the staff, will communicate with our students. And again, we have a nice speaker system, but one really has to be listening if you want to hear what's being said. And I don't know how much you can improve that, because it is a gym, but it is an environment that supports us at this time. The last thing I want to point out is right here. This, and for those of you that have been around a while, the water fountain that was there had been there for many years. And originally, I think there were two. There was a basin and a water fountain. And this past spring, Wes and I were looking at ways to improve the facilities and walkthrough, and we both shook our head. We need some updating to this facility here, just with the activity that goes on and students that carry water bottles, not only in class, but in activity. You'll notice it's got the sensor for the water bottle, okay? And rather than trying to lean over and trying to fill it up, and ultimately the water getting on floor, and you can see the years of water on the hardwood, how that deteriorates it, this will hopefully improve that process and become a nice little resource to our students.
You can see how much this thing has been used. Okay, it's got a counter on it. This thing's been in here a little over a week. Almost 500 bottles of water
In a week. So,
sees a lot of use.
awesome. Any questions on our gym environment?
I think these air handlers are for the locker rooms.
Yeah.
But they're pumping out.
No, this one. That's a locker room area. That's a locker room area.
Yeah, I was talking the two down there.
You get 4 in here.
Right.
Some are for the other rooms.
Exactly. So you got 4 of them rumbling, making noise, if they're all going at the same time. Right. I forgot to look up.
Yeah. Those noisemakers are not even for this room.
Exactly. Right. Any questions? All right, let's get a walk the sidewalk around. Point out the landscaping that was redone in the very edges all cut out.
Yeah, I've never really taken any classes.
Give me next.
Well, it was only donated 10 years ago, so. They make that one machine that's like 88,000 tons a week.
One item I'd like to point out, and I think it's like each year we do seal coating projects on the different blacktop surface throughout the district. Last year, this last year, we completed the student parking lot. Okay, this year we completed the parking in front of the bus garage and then around the side of the bus garage and as well in front of the bus garage, I'd say about a third of the way out from the garage. That's the seal coating work that was done last year. This next year, this might be the one that's up, or either this or either the middle school.
I'm not sure what's the
But they're on a rotation where we hit one every other year, and then we periodically move around and bring it back within. So our seal coating work was done within the bus garage area, which completed that project. We'll hit the sidewalk and take it around to the other door.
Took my pedometer out of my pocket. Would have added another mile. I said it was green. Yeah, I took it out because it was a mile.
Okay, one point of, I guess, comment around this area where we're looking at. The other seal coat project that was done this year was in the athletic complex. That blacktop was original, I think it was 2011 that was put down. And to upkeep and maintenance within that had its first coat of seal coating this year to maintain the integrity of that athletic complex. It is what, as you see, supports our youth football and cheer this evening. It had practice tonight. I believe we had a football game tonight as well this Friday. Different events throughout the year, both in the fall and the spring, take place. It's a great community resource that's utilized not only during the school year but throughout the summer as well. It is there for our students and community to utilize as appropriate. Okay, we're going to dig it in right here.
Thank you.
Okay, come on in.
She should be here. She's in the library. Her room's way too little.
Did they take it out?
Yeah, it's not there. No, you're right.
So within, this is one of our high school English classrooms. This is where Mrs. Rice instructs, and you can see she's putting her look and feel onto the class preparation before we start. The reason why we're here is that this floor was replaced this past summer. Before it was a carpeted room, and the carpet led a good life, but it was rippled and coming up, and presented not only health risk, but a safety risk potentially with somebody stumbling and going forward. Ideally, I think Mrs. Rice would have liked to have had the carpet maintained within, but it's a cleaner environment. It's a more sterile environment, which allows our individuals cleaning throughout the district to do a better job to maintain a safe environment through our students. You'll notice the different areas within as well as far as instructional. It's not just in the elementary. We got our basic lecture area as well as our small group setting in which students utilize throughout the smartboard as well. Multiple facets of learning going on throughout this classroom when instruction is engaged into.
Mr. Bleck, if I might mention, when people exit the room, I failed to mention earlier in any of the rooms we've been in, you'll see all the new procedures up as far as our safety committee and so forth. They're found in the same location no matter which room you're in the building. If it's a large area such as a gym, they're on all 4 entrances and exits. So you can see the staff will be trained on this on Wednesday and throughout the year with some practices and so forth. But all of our new safety stuff that we have come through with the committee is now up and operational.
If you want to step out right across into the next room.
Remember the story well.
All right. Just wanted to point out what this classroom is for. Last year, the board supported to implement Math 180 to complement instruction that goes on Read 180. You'll notice some of the Read 180 icons throughout the room. This classroom is what I would call the original multifaceted learning environment. Read 180 is designed to instruct, to encourage students to learn in multiple ways of learning. Computer, small group, individual, group learning, teachers, one-on-one within this configuration. This addresses our middle school and high school students that are looking to bring up their reading scores to grade level expectations within. It's a great room. A lot of progress in student accountability and improving their individual ability to be proficient readers takes place within. And again, the reason for the tile in this room, same age as the room next door. Led a good life, but it needed to be replaced to stay up with the times and where we're at. Any questions in here? We'll move back up. Cafeteria area, and I'm going to let Jeremy talk about what's going to happen this year with our lunches. Last year we've gone from 2 to 1.
Correct. One of the stipulations with implementing that ELT program, the Extended Learning Time program, is I needed to go down to 1 lunch. And we have that feasibility here because of our enrollment to do so. So we're trying out some layout options. One thing I hope in the very near future is that we can look at options for new cafeteria tables. With the exception of these 3 right here, those all over there are 40 plus years old. And how I know that is the guy that came out that I was asking questions about, he's pretty sure that he was here 42 years ago when the tables were purchased. So we're trying a couple different things. My goal in the long run, if we can at some point look at some new tables, is to have different options, okay? I am of a person that likes to stand a lot. I don't sit a lot. Some students like to be closer grouped together, so we're trying some of the round table options. And some of the kind of a table that I would like to bring in is called a socializer, which is a table about this high in which students could stand and converse and what have you. This is an arrangement we're going to try this year. This will accommodate freshmen through juniors. Our seniors are going to have a little bit of a privilege in using the study hall room as a senior lunchroom. We have been able to coordinate tables accordingly for all the seniors to go in there and eat lunch if they so choose. Okay. We have fixed some, but we're just about out of parts. Am I correct, Wes?
Yes, we are.
It's getting very close to, we're just about
I've
out
come
of
to a
seat
couple
chairs.
wrestling matches and seen people fall off the seats.
The other idea behind the round tables too is I think a round table presents a much cleaner and more positive atmosphere when we have banquets and so forth versus a table like this, because somebody always has to turn their back in order to see the presenters or what have you. Okay? So There's other options. We're going to do a few things. The table that's over there behind Mr. Cole, Mr. Stibbs, it's going to actually have skirting on, and that's going to be for our guest presenters table, which is why we put a bulletin board up there and so forth. Okay. So just moving some things around, trying to utilize space a little bit better, and make some things right. We do have a TV screen that would be up here normally, but it has malfunctioned and has been sent in for repairs under warranty, I believe. So.
Okay. Before we go into the kitchen area, and I'll put some lights in here, a couple things I want you to notice. All of our meals, lunches that are prepared and breakfasts are prepared in our kitchen. Some of you maybe have never been in this environment. It very much meets the needs of our district. It's aging equipment. You know, periodically we make requests to improve our cooking equipment. The point that I'd like to make when we walk in is the floor, correct?
Yes.
Okay, the floor is something that has come up not only in question by the kitchen staff, Cindy Billington, our coordinator, Wes, myself, but also the inspectors that come in and look at the cleanliness and safety. You can only fix something so many times. And the tile in this area, although it's got a nice shiny finish on it, is probably one of the poorest sections of tile in our entire district. Just from the environment, the hot, the cold, the stepping around, and the traffic, it's in need of repair. When Wes did some preliminary investigating last spring into the cost replacement of this area, astronomical, because you're looking for a specific kitchen grade type floor to support an environment like this. So we were very reluctant to bring that forward at this time without knowing what the future brings as far as the facility plan and site study and what it means as our kitchen. So I guess I would ask that just look at things as we go through, and things are cleaned up and ready for work. We'll just make our way through on this end and through the other. I'll grab the light on the other end. I wanted to point out a couple things within the metal shop area. If you remember back to our facility study and some of the comments that were made about the evolution of shops and equipment and post-World War II equipment that was out there, which now schools have inherited to teach and instruct from. Okay, some of the pieces of equipment are from that era. And as we know through CNC, computerized machining and so on and so forth, the environment gives an experience, but it does not give what I will call a cutting-edge experience. Neil's back by the welding booths, which were assembled a few years back to create welding environments for the different classes within that curriculum. But this is it. This is our metal shop and how it's utilized within our high school instruction. And students will have an experience in tech ed as soon as 7th grade. Okay, and then continually on through high school if they so choose. We're going to cut through Mr. Grunzel's office into the wood shop.
Liaison, the metal shop.
Okay, some comments on our wood shop. Wood shop complements our metal shop for students to have different experiences from intro to cabinetry making and wood flood and wood soup. This is where the vast majority of the instruction is going on during the year. This is 30 years along that side. There's different storage and equipment lockers where equipment is presented for students to use throughout. The work benches are the work tables, and where students work independently in small groups. The actual hands-on learning within the pieces of equipment throughout takes place, depending on the time and the appropriateness of the lesson that Mr. Brentsville is instructing on that day. In an upper level class, okay, students that have been exposed to the Woods curriculum through the majority or through high school
This is a fluid classroom. You may have 10, 15 to 20 individuals moving in that many different directions, carrying out their expectations through the class, working on their project. So there's bodies in motion, okay? But we also have machine and equipment that is in motion. All right, machine and equipment that can be dangerous if not used appropriately. All right, but through instruction, practice, and protocol, we ensure that safety environment as best we can. We've been very fortunate. Our students do a good job of knowing their surroundings, knowing their do's and don'ts within the curriculum within, which has created a safe environment. Again, the space and configuration, being able to have more of it would be ideal. But these are the configuration that we have at this time. You'll notice the horizontal, or excuse me, the vertical piping that goes up from the various machines. That's the sawdust collection that takes the majority of the waste material down to a handler located on outside of the building. It is effective, but it's not really efficient. Okay, it was put in many, many years ago. Serves the purpose, but is maintaining the clean, healthy environment with limiting the dust and whatnot. It could be updated within. You know, as hard as you clean to get things just pristine, and that sense of dust at the wood shop, you're going to have that within. Any questions on this environment? We're just going to walk through here. Classroom of the tech ed classes. Classes typically start and finish from this environment. Where the instruction, Mr. Grensel will introduce a concept or methodology for students to process through, talk through, learn about, engage into before exiting into the labs or the shop areas to carry out the expectations of the day. You'll notice that there is a computer lab built within this environment for the different designings and drawings and engineering that goes into the project that students are creating. It's a great room. Again, you'll hear the size and the congestedness of where we are. Originally, this was designed, I believe, to be a printing room. This area here was a dark room for photography. Maybe at one time there might have been some drafting. I know there was drafting next door in the room adjacent to us here. But it was another tech ed room at a different age and time. When the screen printing and the litho printing was popular, we had machines in here to support that type of education. Now the printing is all computerized. It's computerized drawing, computerized printing, and the machines that once did that in the screen printing are, not to say non-existent, but they're not as prevalent as they once were years ago. Any questions from here? We're going to head through that door right there then. What this room represents is our high school physics room. Mr. Hansen, who used to be located over by the biology and chem lab, several years ago asked to have a reconfiguration to be down closer to the technical education classroom, with the idea that himself and Mr. Grensel would work collectively on different projects throughout the year and having access to the lab for potentially his students as well to create, engineer, manufacture items that are relevant to the instruction that he's giving at that time. So the proximity is great with it, so that he could take students potentially into the lab area to carry out the different expectations. Last year, the exhaust system along the back was installed for the different processes that Mr. Hansen carries out with some of the noxious fumes that may come about from the different projects. That's vented up and out of the building. That is the best solution for this environment that was recommended to take smells and gases out of this room at this current time with it. Any questions on the physics room? I just want to make you aware of what else is in the high school that we didn't stop into, and if we want to look at it, here's a chance that we can put our eyes to it. The art room is down the hallway over here, the first room on the left. If anyone would like to see the art room within, again, it fits the model of small and tight, kind of cramped, if you will. We have our home ec rooms down where Mr. Stibbs and Sandy are. On the right, I'm just going to open that door there just to show what that looks like. We did some work in there last year to kind of open up. That's one of the areas that we're looking at a potential centers of excellence to foster that instruction. And then as we work our way down, we're looking at instruction of computers, social studies, special ed, English, in very traditional classroom setting. If anyone would like to see one, just let me know. And
The art room discussion was that they don't have a separation between clean and dirty.
I agree.
Which is a challenge.
I agree, right.
In art.
Any places you want to check out here? Okay. Down. This is our face room that supports the instruction with both classroom instruction and our lab area. Okay, last year this floor was replaced. This half of the room had a carpeted floor. I believe this area was a tile floor, but it needed to be replaced and updated. Much like our kitchen in the high school, it was in need. There also used to be what I'll call I don't think it was original design, a wall that separated these rooms. You can see remnants of the paneling up there. And we removed and added the counter space and dropped it down so that instruction can go on from both sides, the classroom and the lab. And Ms. Hunkins can have oversight. She can be working with the student in the classroom and still have students engaged in the lab stations accordingly as appropriate within, where before that couldn't take place. She had to instruct from the area within here and then take her students to the lab station. So this opens it up, gives it more flexibility, more space, which creates a greater space feeling within. Questions on this environment? Okay, this classroom supports middle school English and literature. Heather Betts instructs from this classroom. And what I wanted to point out, the different configurations within this room, probably more so, is the carpet. Okay, the carpet in this room is original with the building construction back in 91. And you can see the wear and the tear and the discoloration of years of use and cleaning or attempts to clean it. The carpet is as clean as we're going to get it. And whether that's acceptable or not, I guess, is to the eyes of the beholder, but that's where it's at. This room ultimately would be up on a rotation to have the carpet pulled out and a tile floor put in to clean it up a little bit. So you can see the potential need that the rooms get after years and years of just student use, okay, through the years. We're going to sneak through here. We're going to cut through the computer lab, just to point out one of our middle school computer labs. And again, middle school computer lab, classroom accessibility from multiple classrooms to come in here if desired. The design is from the 90s, not the 60s, which allows multiple users to bring their students in. When Dean was talking about creating environments that had multi-accessible computer labs for staff to let students into to work along in their classroom, this is about as close as we can get to resembling that in the middle school. This type of environment doesn't exist in the high school for individual teachers to use. They're physically going to a location, or they have the mobile lab with them on a cart in their classroom. But this is our middle school computer lab, which is utilized a lot. High school feels as we prepare for the start of the school year. I predict temperatures will be similar to what we're experiencing this week. It always has been. It seems like it always will be. And we will have the same expectation for students in the elementary, middle, and high school to be productive, but you can see how that environmental makeup changes and some of those barriers that we need to potentially address. My final thoughts on this. We took a significant amount of time to go through this walkthrough, and that was not by chance, it was by design, to know our lay of the land, okay, and what we have and how it looks right now before the use starts here in a week or so. And the second fold of that part was to showcase the work that has been done, because I'm very proud of how our buildings look at the current time, as well as the year goes on, and the maintaining that goes in Wes and his staff, and our custodial staff, and our staff and teachers, maintaining the rooms as they need to be throughout the year. It's a group effort. So I hope that was insightful, and as we carry on with future discussions, you'll be able to reflect on the different areas with insight as to the layout.
With the 14 million estimate of repairs that they talked about in the facility study, I'm surprised at how few things we've seen that need repair.
Anything else on 5D? 5E, CESA Representative, nothing to report. 5F, Legislative Liaison, Mr. Bleck.
I have nothing to report at this time.
5G, 6, approval of previous minutes.
I make a motion to approve the Monday, August 11th committee of the whole meeting as written.
Dan.
I'll second.
Questions, discussion on the minutes?
On the minutes, page 1 of 3, there's mention of a gifted and talented program for continual discussion. And I'm not sure when that might make the agenda. Maybe we'll do it at the end of the meeting. I mean, yeah. Stay with that.
Anything else on the minutes? All in favor for approval? Aye. Opposed? Carried. 6B.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of the special Board of Education meeting from August 4th, 2014.
Second that.
Questions, comments on the special education, special board meetings? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. 6C.
I'll make a motion to approve the regular Board of Education meeting July 20th.
I'll second that. Any discussion, questions on the regular board meeting? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. 7, consideration and approval of vouchers. 7A, July monthly vendor payments.
I'll make a motion to approve the July vendor payments as written.
I'll second it.
Dan, Jim, questions? Discussion on the vendor payments. Roll call, please, Don.
Sandy Smith? Yes. Dan Cole?
Yes.
Rick Westbury?
Yes.
Neil Durkee?
Yes.
Jim Smith?
Yes.
Debbie Burnell? Yes. Debbie Arthur?
Yes. Motion carried. 7B, July monthly cash receipts.
Motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Discussion on the cash receipts. Roll call, please.
Debbie Burnell?
Yes.
Jim Smith?
Yes.
Dan Cole?
Yes.
Rick Westbury?
Yes.
Debbie Arthur?
Yes.
Sandy Smith? Yes. Neil Durkee?
Yes.
8, old business. 8A, board policy 472.
Board policy 472 was requested to be part of an informational discussion with potential approval if board members saw fit to include it in the 400 series for recognition on our next agenda item. Just some highlights as communicated out. Policy 472 addresses our student representative to the Board of Education, and the highlights in green were clerical typo corrections within to make it read as it should.
My only question
does the student council decide that a representative should be removed? The first year that I was on the board, I think the representative was here for one, maybe two meetings.
Right.
So, is there some kind of on the student council, or are there expectations for this? Obviously, if somebody can't make it every single meeting, that's one thing, but.
Speaking, Jordan has a volleyball.
Yeah, right. No, and I'm not saying that, but
Yeah,
when you
okay.
only make it to one or two meetings.
I think with anything, if it's within our board here or any other public board, that if the obligation or fulfillment isn't being met, it's a voice that carries forward to that person or the player to be. I don't know if I don't see a process in place other than bringing to aware to the individual and, getting that ground clutter of, hey, why aren't you there? If that's coming from the student population, I think that warrants a communication as to either you're going to represent us or not, and if not, then it could go to the 2/3 vote to find somebody who's committed to being there.
Possible solution to that is have more than one student representative. You have a much better chance of having someone here.
I know we had discussed that earlier, right, as an option to consider. When you go through, Mr. Schrader presenting from your perspective within that.
If, a student or the board has a concern, I would ask that it be brought forward, and then we can investigate the opportunities.
No, I haven't memorized this lately, but what is the chance of having two?
That will change the policy.
Right. Is that the opportunity we're doing now, that we should consider that?
We did talk about two at one time, I think, in the study.
I guess I would like to see this policy permit, allow, require, whatever you want to say, two.
Well, I don't have the history, to know how often the student representatives attend meetings. Maybe in the past, they have been well attended, and I know Jordan has been here already a couple of times, so, I'm certainly not calling her out or anything. I'm just saying that based on the little bit I do know, I was surprised at the lack of attendance.
I think the first year.
This is Jordan is our fourth rep. We had Cole.
Hildebrand.
We had Cole, and then we had.
He attended a lot.
He did, right.
Is there something here that prevents us from having two?
Do whatever we want, it's in the policy.
But the current policy, does it prevent having two?
I'm not
My quick review of this is like, why don't we just have two? Do we have to change it?
Yeah, because it says all the student council picks one. We're talking about one all the time. We would have to change.
I think part of the civic process is that our board members represent a group of people from our area, cities, villages, and townships, and that is the governmental voice of that city, township, or village. And within the school community, looking for that feedback from our student, that student would be that singular voice through student council, through their peers, to bring forward the happenings of the school community. Do we have two representatives from one district? No, we have one individual or person that represents multiple districts, just based on our sheer size of township. I'm not familiar with other configurations where you may have two people from the same city. Maybe on the sheer size of numbers, you may have that. I think that's what it emulates.
How many juniors and seniors are on the student council? For curiosity.
I don't
Roughly
have that in
6,
front of me.
5?
I really don't know.
That would be another option to have. a
Sabrina
student
might
council
know.
member.
5 or 6, I would say.
Thank you.
And-
That would be
and
another option to have a member of the student council.
In the scenario that we represent the public and not two from one, simple, one junior, one senior.
Or get a replacement for that, for that meeting. If somebody knows that they can't make it, have somebody else come in that person's place.
That would
I mean,
be
rather than have two people appointed,
Well, they
because
could work it out amongst themselves, possibly.
right, yeah,
Can
exactly.
you fill in for me? We're both available to go.
Exactly.
Well, that's why I'm saying if it was a member of the student council, they could work
Two could do their best to fill the chair.
I'm good with it as is. You could have two, you could have 10. We have one.
Yeah, I think we only need one here.
change it, have two and be done with it.
Or say that that person could ask that person to step in.
They're only issued 1 year.
1 year. Next year, we'll go through the process to identify another candidate.
Well, that's what I said, like I said, I didn't know the history of this, but
Active involvement, looking for an increase. I agree.
You know, if it's as simple as 1/2 optional.
Or I would say that person could ask somebody else to step in for him that night. But it'd be good to us. So are we going to vote?
It's information.
Although the next one could approve it.
Right, exactly. That's the.
And I will not support this as is. So if we have to fix this one, I could if we can agree to change this one, we get more support in the next one possibly. And none of these have to be approved today if we want to change this.
It's only been an issue. If you want to change it, then change it next, when we fix it next. Come back and change it.
We might not get back to this policy for years.
Well, wait a minute, why don't we put that on the agenda, that we
Put it
want to
on the
bring
next
this
agenda.
policy up 2 months before we pick next week.
See how it works.
Just to review it to see if we want to change it or not,
What
based
month
on our
would-
experience.
What month would that be?
I believe it's March is when this process goes to the,
So then in January, we should put it on the agenda.
Mike, I just had a question. What's the downside to having more than one? Like, I don't really see a bad thing about it. The thing about it all being like one community representing it, each grade level is pretty much its own community. There's a big difference between seniors, juniors, sophomores, freshmen, so. I'd go one from every grade level, or at least one from juniors and seniors.
March.
And originally, when the policy wasn't followed and it was brought forward, then the process wasn't handled correctly. So then you guys kind of decided, well, let's have two, that's what was going to happen. And suddenly the next meeting was like, well, we have to follow policy, now we're just going to follow policy. So it's feels a little bit like politics are being played.
The application submittal process is due by March 1st. So that's when it starts to take place with that process. So if we were going to review this, potentially to change the number of students recognized, I'd recommend that we have this discussion in the month of February at the very latest.
That's why I said January.
Yeah.
It's not going to change this year. Correct.
Well, I can't make a motion to put it on because that's what the motion.
Second one.
The second.
Not yet. Anything else on A?
So what you're saying is we're not able to change this policy?
We can't
It's
tonight.
not going to affect this year.
But we could, we,
Okay. On the next agenda item, can we
We could
change this
change.
policy?
yes.
Okay.
Anything else on A? 8B, board policy 400 series action.
I make a motion, we change board policy 472 to allow 2 student representatives.
is there a time frame for that? Like
If we're
immediately,
if
or?
we're approving it now, this policy would be changed now.
think you could, or should you say allow for two? What if you only have one kid that, even applies for it? I don't know, again, I don't know the history, so then are we locking ourselves into a problem if we don't have two applicants?
In some years, there has been just one person that showed interest. This year, there were more than one. There was multiple students that had interest in participating, but to Bella's point, it could sway from year to year.
What if you say up to two?
Where's the wording that you need to fix? My glasses are.
Debbie, do you second that?
I'll second it, if it says up to two. I don't think it should say two.
Or one or two is not possible wording.
Yeah.
Either way.
Show me where I gotta be here.
You have to change the whole thing about the student council.
Well, it just talks about
It may select
selecting
two
two
candidates
candidates,
on the ballot.
and they vote, and number 4, we talked about that, so.
Yeah, so where in here does it say it can't be two?
I don't think it does.
The part where it says if there's more than one.
Yeah.
I can't find it. Oh.
As a number 3 under selection.
Oh, yeah, if there are more than one eligible. So you'd have to say if there are more than 2 eligible candidates, should meet prior to interview all students and select 3. I don't know how to.
Whatever, you could just reword the whole thing to just allow for 1 or 2.
My interpretation of this policy is you can have two.
No, it does say to vote for the student representative for the Board of
You
Education.
can only have 2 on the ballot. It says a number 3
on the
last
ballot,
sentence.
a number 3.
Therefore, you have to choose 1 on the ballot. And then the next question I can see that's gonna arise is if you have 2 people on the ballot, one's a 10th grader, one's an 11th grader, people are gonna say that it should be given to the 11th grader because that's the last chance they're gonna have. I can see that coming forward too. So keep that in consideration.
I think the whole policy should be relooked at next year. But you've got a motion on the floor. We're not gonna do it in March anymore.
Motion?
Motion by Neal, second by Betty Bartle to change policy number 472 to allow 2 student representatives.
And that's the only part of the motion, so we're not voting on the whole series.
If the board would agree that there would be, the policy would allow 2, we may have to wordsmith it later. To allow, that's the way I would interpret that motion. Is that, if the board agrees that we can allow 2, next month we might wordsmith it at committee.
I'm just asking if there wasn't anything in the motion to approve all the other 400 that we looked at. That's right? I mean,
Could you read the exact motion?
Motion by Neal Harkey, second by Betty Bartle to change policy number 472 to allow 2 student representatives.
And
Are we talking tomorrow or talking next? March. After. As of March 2015.
If I could intervene just for one second, and what we've done in this type of situation in the past, if we've had something that warranted a majority vote to change, I don't think we've ever voted on a specific or individual policy. We may have early on in the 100 series, but if it's a consensus that you want to see 2 people there, let me take it back and make it 2 and bring it forward, so that you can take a look at it and know what you're looking at, and then ultimately approve the 400s along with that consecutively at the same time. That's the board's discretion with
Well,
that.
that sounded like what Neil was saying was supposed to happen.
I hear a motion right now to approve that policy. You could just say, hey, consensus says we want 2 people. All right, we can smith it out to reflect 2 people, bring it back, review it, move through the 400 series collectively. That's what we did for every one of items 1 through 5 on the next agenda item. We discussed it, made changes, brought it back, and said, yep, that meets our needs, bring it together for potential approval.
I don't think I'm asking to approve 472 with a change separately. Please read it one more time.
think I've said it correctly.
Can you
And I think it's being interpreted that I'm asking for this policy to be
Is
changed.
the way I have it written correct?
The way I want
Is the way
it.
you, okay.
I'm not asking for this
That's my
policy to be changed and approved uniquely from the 400s. I just want this one changed.
Then just the comments I will go over, because I don't understand. Why ignorant?
I think it represents the voting process of how things work the best as is. Go down to 2, end up with 1. And how it works.
Alright. Roll call?
Or do we table it until after Scott wordsmiths it? I mean, you could table a motion, right? So could we table it and then, you know, he brings it back to us, then we could, what's the thing that you,
You could do a subsidiary motion table.
okay, yeah, what's the next thing that we could do to,
You'd have to withdraw the current motion and second on the floor, and the correct motion would be to lay on the table policy 472 until it is wordsmithed to meet the needs of the board.
I think you can have a subsidiary motion under the main motion.
You can't when you have a motion on the floor.
So when do you ever do a subsidiary motion if you don't do it after the
It's a
motion?
separate motion.
It's a subsidiary motion.
I judged it for many years.
Okay, so we either vote or withdraw your motion, second, and table it. Maybe you have to withdraw it, you made the motion.
I disagree.
Okay.
Vote.
Roll call, please.
Dan Cole. Debbie Burnham.
no,
Jim Smith.
No.
Andy Smith.
no.
Kurt Westbury.
No.
Doug Earnhardt.
No.
Neil Lurky.
Yes. No, but now you can make a motion to table. That's what I'm hearing, although I think it should have been a subsidiary.
I'll make a motion to recognize the reviewed and amended 400 policy series as presented. That's where we're at.
Motion by Kurt, second by Dale. Discussion on the 400 series.
I just would like to make a comment, somebody could bring it up next year.
Questions on the 400 series? All in favor of approval? Aye. Opposed?
Aye. Vote.
Carried 6-1. 8C, Science Gifted and Talented Program.
informational, and asked to be part of the agenda. I just included a blurb that board members have seen prior as well. Currently, we're gearing up for the start of the school week or school year this next week, and our programming is in place as previously discussed. As we move into the fall, future discussions, relevant to science and gifted and talented may come forward with recommendations based on student needs and/or direction. If there's any new insight items that you'd like the administrative team to be aware of, we're ready to work on.
Anyone hear anything on 8C?
So is currently a gifted and talented person in place,
After the consent agenda, we'll have an individual.
plan to be in place, I'll call it. And do they have any experience in the gifted and talented education?
They do, but not a license experience. But they do as well in experience.
I guess I certainly would like to see our district get that gifted and talented system move a little higher up in the priority.
Anything else on C? Number 9, consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve consent agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Bleck.
The board approved through the consent agenda of several resignations and hires for the upcoming school year. Resignation, Nick Schomburg, high school, middle school math. Heather Heilman, kindergarten teacher. Catherine Carwick, hires recognized this evening through the consent agenda are Brenda Poirier is our middle school and elementary administrative assistant. Kim Penny, kindergarten teacher. Cindy O'Connor, food service. Mary Rada, English gifted and talented teacher. Julie Walbrun, high school cross country. Bailey Kapitsky, 8th grade volleyball coach. And Matt Kermit, JV football coach. Board, I'd like to recognize that individual on letter B, underneath hires, has not been secured to the consent agenda. And so that hire is recommended not to be recognized at this time. That position is still being considered. So the individual within that position has not accepted the position. What's that?
I wasn't sure if you just meant the two or if there were additional.
No, the person on
I got it.
letter B. So that position will come forward potentially with the same individual and or a different individual at the September board meeting.
If we vote to approve the consent agenda, and then we approve it, and then we delete it, it doesn't sound correct. I think the consent agenda should have been changed before it was approved, if there's changes to be made.
This came up within the last hour or two before the meeting, knowing that we would have this discussion at this time. If the board has a recommendation outside of what I brought forward to recognize it, we'll gladly entertain it, but you feel would be the right way to do that.
Are you talking about the two that were already crossed off, or did you add somebody else?
No, I'm talking on your consent agenda in your packet. Underneath letter B, underneath hires, number 2B, that individual has not committed to the district yet.
So there should be one more crossed off.
The high school, middle school math position has not been secured at this time. At the time of publication, we thought that it was, and we were ready to bring it forward as it's presented. But it is not appropriate at this time.
I would suggest that we would change the consent agenda if there's changes to be made before approval.
Okay. I make a motion to rescind my motion
Okay?
to the consent agenda.
Okay?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Okay, now I make a motion to approve the consent agenda, taking off 2B
Correct.
on the item.
Thank you.
Second.
Dan, second by Jim. Make the new motion. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Then new business, 10A, 2014-15 co-curricular compensation grid.
At our August committee meeting, board members had the co-curricular compensation grid presented with the recommendations from the subcommittee for board consideration. No changes have been recommended other than cleaning up a couple names and updating the 15 to have it reflected as it was this year. And this would be put into our professional staff employee handbook on approval this evening.
I make a motion to approve the 2014-2015 co-curricular compensation grid as presented.
By Jim,
I'll second that.
by Debbie. Discussion, questions on the grid? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. 10B, ACT results.
Board members, on August 20th, ACT released the embargo on this year's ACT results. I thought it was important that the information be shared with our board and our school community, as this is an annual topic of discussion year in and year out. In 2014, we had 46 individuals from our district that participated in the ACT and had an overall composite district score of 22.3. Last year, we had, and with a state composite score of 22.2. In reflection to 2013, we had 46 individuals that took the assessment, very similar in nature, and last year's composite score was 22.4. So we lessened by 1/10 of a point from 22.4 to 22.3, but pleased to say that we are at above state average compared to the remainder of the state, with a continual goal to keep fostering this forward. Now note that this next year, all juniors, if I'm not mistaken, Candy, will be subject to the ACT. So we will see some drastic potential changes to the outcome of what the ACT is, not just for us locally, but as well throughout the state. When we look at all students taking that, Jeremy, you're going to have a junior class of how many students approximately?
I'm sorry, what?
How many?
Grading number 2.
Oh, okay. I just wondered how many juniors are you going to have in your class this year? Approximately 60-some? Okay. So the whole junior class will be taking that test. So that number is going to go up, whether it be a college-bound student or a workforce or a tech-bound student. All students will be taking the test this next year for the ACT.
Will there be accommodations for students with special needs?
That is correct. And this year, to add to some of Scott's numbers, 73% of the state of Wisconsin took the test this year, and this past year, 46 of our students took it. Those aren't necessarily all junior students. Some of them are seniors taking it for the first time or the second time, and those students are counted in that number.
So I have to stand on that.
And C, joint dismissal business manager resolution agreement.
After our board meeting, the committee meeting, we had discussion of what the joint resolution would look like potentially to move in a direction of securing our own individual business managers to support our district through Mr. Ehrenberg and Attorney Gill. It was thought that it is appropriate if the board chooses to move in that direction, that a resolution would be recognized. This resolution has also been sent to the Manawa School District as well for their consideration as they move forward. I was told that the soonest that they would be able to act upon this would be at the September meeting, noting they already have the August meeting.
I make a motion to recognize the joint resolution with the Maryland School District determining the shared business manager.
I'll second that.
Motion and second. Discussion. I guess I can just fill you in a little bit on the conversation. I called Mr. Gill the following morning, told him what we talked about as far as the different sides, what our options are. He went back, Dawn emailed him the agreement again. He emailed me back probably 2 to 3 hours later, saying that to terminate the joint resolution would be an option. I asked him what his recommendations were, and he said, I recommend joint termination. The adverse effects of any such dispute may negatively impact not only the recruitment of a person to work for Weyauwega Fremont, but also on his relationship with him. Got this up, pass it through Mr. Gill.
Just a suggestion, maybe when we contact with other districts, we get something in there about termination from now on. Like we contacted the speech man or backup, so maybe in the future we should make sure we have a termination policy in there. Should we run into this problem?
Good.
Is Manawa looking to terminate it also, or are they at all willing to honor their contract?
My discussion with the interim at that time was that they were looking to pursue an individual, and they went forwarded on to the interim prior to the new superintendent just started. That was the direction they were moving towards to recommend that we join this.
What was their response when they were asked, are you going to honor your contract?
We don't have anyone. We don't have a person to fill that void right now.
And I believe
board members, this was the session, or the reason for our amended agenda, the next two items under the case tractor loader, and Mr. Schrader is with us this evening. At the end of July, our front end loader tractor has, I'll call major issues within it. First is the transmission, the shifting back and forth, and then what I'll call a hiccup in the motor that warranted a deeper dive into the look at the tractor. The tractor was sent over to Service Motors where it was purchased. It's a case product. Service Motors services Case IH for all their products. After the investigation, the transmission in the or on the tractor is in need of replace. The linkage is the hydraulic shifting within that.
I believe so, yes.
Within, it's not the manual shifting within, it's a hydraulic system. And as well as a deeper dive into the motor, one of the cylinders in the motor was 50 to 60 compression pounds less than the other remaining pieces of that. And so what you see in front of you is the option potentially to have the tractor repaired with some additional repairs to the 3-point lift system in the back that works the scrape blade, the brakes, and then as well as the transmissions and the motor within. Right now, the value of the tractor, and Wes, you can help me out, is very minimal to the eyes of Service Motors if we were to look to trade it in on something else. We did have one outside inquiry of somebody that would be interested in the tractor to take the motor out, transmission out, and they have access to one, put it into that tractor and make it run that way. That potential offer was $5,000 or whatnot.
Correct, yep.
To do that. So as far as assessed value of the tractor as it sits right now, that's one assessment that's out there. Included on the backside of the information, I just wanted to show you some comparables and likes that are out there. Our tractor that we have is the 1996 Case 540, and what I'll call it light industrial use. It's got a front end loader bucket. It looks primarily exactly what the picture represents with the scrape bucket in the back. As far as hours on our tractor, we have between, and I don't know exactly, but it's between 2,000 and 2,500 in that ballpark. All right, so in tractor world, that's pretty minimal. You know, it's kind of young in its life as to the condition it's currently in and the hours that it's on. If you look at the examples that are shared, number one is an example from Service Motors that they had on their lot, which is now sold, and had unknown hours with hour meter not functional, and you can see that they retailed that out at $14,900. The one below is a 2012. It's a demo model, which I believe they had on their lot. They still do, approximately 300 hours, and you can see the price to accommodate that, nearly $60,000. So from 96 to 2012, and if it were brand new, it would be more than that if we were to go that route as well. Below, you have a 2004. The picture is the same as what you've been looking at, and that's a model of 8,000 hours. And for that unit, they are looking to get 1975 for that model, and then one below, down in Missouri, and it's got 4,600 hours, and they're looking at 18,800. This is just a kind of a price check as to the value of the piece of equipment if we were to go out and purchase a like piece of equipment right now. I guess, if we choose to go forward and replace the motor and the transmission, we darn near have a brand new tractor, in that regard. Motor-wise, the structural soundness, the tires are good on it, the cab's in good shape, the functioning compatibilities within the cab are all within working order. But we're spending, upwards of, minus the tax, $24,000 on a tractor repair.
What's the model number of our tractor?
It's a 570 XT.
No, XT is.
What do you have? You have a similar, don't you? Or do you have a backhoe on it? How many hours do you have on here?
Non-functional.
Non-functioning, okay.
Is there a warranty after
The
this?
hour meter is non-functional.
there a warranty on something like this
After the repair?
I would imagine that there would be a repair. This is a reconditioned motor, reconditioned transmission, so generally you would have some sort of warranty with that.
Well, I would miss it on blue or nothing.
Does the radio work?
That would be distracting you.
There's no radio.
Focus, it work.
Did you ever think of taking it someplace else?
We did.
This is way out of line. I've had stuff done similar to this.
And that's appropriate if that's the direction we want to skirt out. I guess the way that you're thinking about, Dan, is to come with the assurances of if it doesn't work, I don't know.
That's what I can say is,
No,
I haven't had any. I mean, you doing with me?
Right, and we went there, they're Case IH dealers,
I know.
Case IH tractor, that's the reason why it went to that site. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I just have much put in for, it's not a hydrostatic,
Right, yeah, that's.
but I mean,
I would have difficulty approving this without checking.
yeah, I would.
So what would the board like to see? Because the track that's sitting at their lot right now, waiting for a direction from us, and it's gonna cost us, they tore it down, they took it apart to diagnose it, and say we have, an issue with it. We've also been renting, as I've communicated out, a tractor to help support our summer functions. That went back, I believe, or it's waiting to
We're
go
not
back?
paying for it right now, but it's still sitting here.
Right, it's on its way back. Prior to the snow season, this is something that we would need to have within our arsenal to ideally address the snow configuration.
They shouldn't have had to tear it apart.
What's that?
They shouldn't have had to tear it apart and tear it out.
Hydraulic shift doesn't work, they know.
They know.
Pressure check, they know. Not too bad for them, no internal things.
Well, what should be
Well,
warranty?
I mean, as far as this, I don't want to badmouth places and
Right.
public setting, but definitely would take it somewhere else and have them take a look at it. But it's in pieces now, you're in a kind of.
I don't know
It can
to
be
what
loaded
extent
up
it's
as
tore
is.
apart. We had a service tech out to our maintenance shop here. They couldn't diagnose the transmission problem there. They had to take it in, hook it up to the computer. So, I don't know to what extent it's tore down.
Just going into the future with anything here, you're gonna have problems with parts or getting service. It takes a long time. If this thing breaks down again in the winter, you might be down for half the winter before you get it back. From our experience.
That's my concern as well, even though, maybe we put a new motor, new transmission, and is this thing gonna nickel and dime us after that?
I guess, where else can you look for a case though?
Could we have a committee of a couple guys getting together?
I mean, we have minimal equipment, we're not big equipment people, we have a handful of things that keep us going, and we have maintenance agreements on them because we don't have mechanics on site. I guess, and that would be, in the future, any newer equipment would be something to consider, because these guys aren't gonna be mechanics either, just like I have, they can change oil, grease. I'm assuming, Wes, I'm not trying
No,
to,
you're
but that's
you're
just
spot
the
on there.
reality
We
of
don't,
it is.
we don't have the time.
We
to-
just get service contracts because we don't have people that are that capable.
Well, everything's computerized now, you can't afford to have that equipment separately.
But we're part replacers, oil changers, greasers, that's about it.
Right.
Not
I would volunteer in a committee, and hope a couple others here to just solve this.
I will too.
Well, I can bring solutions forward for you to consider if you want. Okay.
Or team, committee discussion, and
Why don't you and Kurt, Dan,
Meet with Wes and
meet with Wes
John.
folks?
so, I don't know how you wanna make that happen. Make a motion, we form a committee of
We don't really have to have committees always to do a repair, but
meeting when we can all get together, we can talk about timing that later and just discuss your options. And we'll take that. Okay. The committee should be open to anyone.
You just post it and then.
Yeah, anybody.
But it better be soon.
Yeah.
So how do you want to do this? I'm going to try this and see if it works. I make a motion, we form a special committee and post it to make this single decision.
I'll second that. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
And at the agenda time, we should discuss maybe when we want to get that done, if it's time is of the essence.
Good.
Okay, we'll work on a date and.
No, we're there right now.
Right.
We won't have E now, we'll close that.
Yeah, there'll be no big labor request.
Number 11, calendar and future agenda. Do that one first.
Days, evenings, weekends, what's the majority for committee on track?
Anytime this week works best for me.
Pick a day, pick a time. Okay?
Tomorrow better.
We have our back to school and new teacher in service tomorrow, and then our district-wide in service the 6th and 7th. There may be some flexibility later on in the afternoon. What's that? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yep. Friday the 5th in the morning. No, okay.
Tomorrow night, 6 o'clock.
Tomorrow night we have open house. Or, excuse me, no, tomorrow night, that's Wednesday. I'm not mistaken.
Can we meet in the morning?
Yeah, we can meet in the morning. We just need to give us a 24-hour posting. If we're going to meet tomorrow night, we probably wouldn't meet that requirement right now.
So Wednesday or Thursday morning?
Wednesday.
We have new teacher. We have our school in service.
No, Wednesday morning we could do it.
What time does that start?
He's got it.
I'll be committed out here to get things rolling by 7 o'clock straight away. That's in the morning. Dan, not available on Friday morning.
7 o'clock is late for farmers.
Hey, I'll meet at 6. That's
You'll
fine with
be
me.
at 6.
You want to meet at 6? Perfect.
Seven are gonna be 6:30.
Wednesday morning at
6:30.
6:30? Okay.
Does that work for Wes?
Yep.
Wednesday, 6:30 a.m. I'm hearing posted.
My volunteer has to come. Sorry, I would be going to.
Where?
Central office.
Okay.
Conference.
Time and place.
Okay. The 8th committee of the whole, reminder at 6 o'clock start. And I'll be here on the 22nd, the regular meeting at 6:30. Anything else for?
Why are we
calendar?
starting at 6? I just tried to-
18 SNRs. That I got.
Oh. Do we have a?
Also, board members, the sealed bids for the health insurance services are due on the 29th. I believe we have a opening at 1:30. That'll get posted tomorrow as well. Board members, I know Mr. Amber thought might be able to step in just to have that present there. We're just going to be opening them up, documenting who's down, and then present the information at our committee meeting on the 8th.
I will try to come, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm sure it's there.
And it's just gonna be an opening of the documents. I had communication of at least two vendors that had interest in the process thus far, potentially 3.
Do we have a budget update on the 8th?
Sure, on the 8th as well? Certainly, yep, we can present that as well. Yep.
When do we plan for the October meeting? Do we have to stop what and stuff?
Scott?
So
had to
I'm sorry,
talk
what's that?
about some things before the annual meeting, they're not, that's automatic. When is the,
Annual meeting is in October, the fourth Monday of October.
oh, whenever that's.
I believe it's on the 27th of the month.
Anything else for 11? Number 12, move to go to closed session. The board plans to return to closed session pursuant to section 19.851C Wisconsin State Statute for the following purpose of considering the employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the government body has jurisdiction or exercise responsibility. A, the purpose of the closed session meeting will review the business manager position. B, the purpose of the closed session meeting will be to review the network administrator position.
Second.
Second.
I went through this a lot the first couple of years, and I guess she is kind of right, you're supposed to name people.
Okay. Want to table the motion?
Oh, but I mean, I would just like point that out. I mean, if we're talking about certain people.
People and the position itself, I guess that's the direction we're looking at.
I know.
Position can be discussed in open meeting.
Yeah,
Only
it has
individuals
be
need to be
discussed.
enclosed.
It's not on our agenda right now, so we couldn't discuss it. Then we better think about our lawyer, we can't trust what our lawyer says.
Yeah, but I just should trust another way.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, you can do what you want.
If you feel that tabling is appropriate, table it, now
You
communicate
got
with
one
Mr.
thing
Gill.
second on here.
And then we'll repost it accordingly with the insight that has been shared.
Well, I would certainly make them, I would let them know that. I don't know, I mean,
You
yeah,
got a
we
motion, you
can't.
got a vote.
I can read what it says here, like, it's clear.
I guess my input would be this: those that vote yes to go to closed session are improperly posted, stand to lose. Those that vote no for it, don't lose.
So, I'm just asking you, so, we can't trust our lawyer then. Then I'm telling you, we can't trust our lawyer. And I have a real question with that, and I would tell him that. I mean, I can't come here and get 500 different things. We can't trust the lawyer that we're paying. I mean, I'll say, okay, we're not gonna do it, but then I want that relayed to that lawyer, what happened here tonight.
That's a discussion I will disclose to Mr. Gill.
Because if every time we're gonna come and listen to people tell us different stuff, then why are we paying a lawyer?
But we're also, maybe that, we can't list names, because we gave Mr. Bleck the direction at our last meeting to seek the position for business manager, which was good.
Right.
And there's a possibility of individuals that will be discussed with us that he has contacted. Plus the closed session.
Then the name should be in closed session.
Well, we don't.
There's not.
Our lawyer says no, and somebody else says yes. I don't know, and we shouldn't be paying our lawyer, we're not getting proper legal advice. Am I wrong here? I mean,
No, we could-
what?
But
what's
in my
going on
history,
here?
certainly in Dan's history, we have paid attorneys.
Well, I know, I'm
bad
understanding that,
advice.
but
It
then
happens.
I'm going back
And
and
you pay fines.
saying, is every time we're going to, who do we listen to here? And Dan, I know, I'm glad you said that, but I'm just saying.
It's up for a vote.
Most
Well,
open
no,
meeting
I don't
violations
wanna get in
are
trouble
brought to us
either,
by
you
the
told me I
public.
might get in trouble,
Well-
you just told me I might get in trouble.
You never know.
I mean, I don't wanna get in
I
trouble.
don't think we would.
But it, I mean, I don't wanna come here if I can't trust what our lawyer tells us. I mean, I have to trust him. I'm not, now I don't. Why would I vote for it now when 3 different people tell me? Then we may have to start having them sit here. we're getting wrong advice then.
But many of us here have gone to law schools that talk about open meeting laws in detail, equally or more so
Well,
than
then
our
maybe we
attorney.
should send our lawyer.
And we had, that attorney that had gone to those schools is now a judge, is not serving us.
Yes, because he let me and I.
Just a motion to just, whatever's printed here.
Yeah, everything is printed on the agenda. For the closed session because of A and B.
That's fine. If that's, you can contact Attorney Gill and, okay, roll call.
Or that's very.
Can you read the motion, please? I'm not sure what I'm going with.
Made a motion to go into closed.
The bold print from 12 and 12 A and B.
Nobody listened.
Yes.
Debbie Bartle.
No.
Jim Stitt.
No.
Neil Murphy.
No.
Sandy Smith.
No.
Dan Cole. Doug Amber.
No.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Neil. I'll second that. Jim, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Board members, I'll communicate with you via our email to carry on the discussion on those